post-match breakdown of what was the game between the Philadelphia Union and Inter Miami. An Inter Miami side that lost 4-1, thus breaking their consecutive losing streak record with now 7, the highest in franchise history thus far. But getting to the game, this was the lineup that Javier Morales had for the Herons. Saw Miami return to the 3-4-3 formation, but the biggest differences is a young back line that hasn't really played with each other much this season. Arroyo back from his injury now alongside Ruiz in the midfield, and Rodolfo Pizarro starting once again for the Herons. The match started for the Herons as usual in the past few games, holding more possession than the side, but lacking that PP, that purposeful possession. With Rodolfo Pizarro that was doing well, finding half spaces and receiving the ball, but lacking that decision making of passing when needed to pass and crossing when it was appropriate. Miami were doing well trying to create some chances to the right hand side by the combination of Cremachi and Robert Taylor. A Robert Taylor that had been playing as a right wing back, and it looked like he'd be given clear instructions not to do those low percentage crosses that Miami had really defaulted on this season, leaving strikers frustrated. And again, with lack of creation, Jose Martinez looked once again desperate and completely disconnected from the side. Miami were doing all this, Philadelphia were sitting in their 4-4-2 diamond, and as a team that doesn't really control games through their possession and waits and capitalize on mistakes, this is exactly what they did. With the first goal coming from Philly from a set piece. Set piece is an area that Inter Miami has really struggled this season, which had 9 goals received from set pieces before the goal from Glesnes, which brought the total to 10 goals received on set pieces. With what was a mismatch between David Ruiz and Glesnes, left the Philly center back a clear option to head the ball. When there were moments that it looked like Miami could capitalize on the Philadelphia team that was a little further up, the movement on the ball was just too slow. If they're going to do the transition game as they have in previous seasons, it has to be much quicker to catch a team on surprise. And this also didn't help the South Florida side to create the chances that they needed. Franco Negri, playing as a left wingback, was showing some flash going forward, as he usually does, and has been a positive player for Miami this season, despite the results. Suffered an injury around the 37th minute, adding to the injuries that Miami have had the serious injuries such as Mota, Gregory, Coco John, and now Negri. With Gregory expected to be back in around September, these are things that had a struggling Inter Miami side struggling even more with having to field young players so inexperienced, placing a much more undue responsibility on them. This was noticeable in the lack of leadership, especially in the defense, providing some good coverage on the left-hand side to come out and get the ball and clear it. Allowed Philly to get the ball inside the box, and Carranza scored. La Ley del Ex, the ex-Inter Miami striker, put the 2-0 for Philly over Miami. And this is a goal that came minutes right after the injury of Negri. Similarly to how it was against the game against New England, once Coco Jean got injured, the team conceded the goal right away. It's a lack of focus that the team has suffered with this season, especially in pivotal moments of the game. With the injury of Franco Negri, we saw the season debut of Robbie Robinson, a player that's been rumored to be on his way out of Inter Miami as soon as the transfer window opened. And for the remaining of the first half, played as a left wingback. Philly gave a lot of problems also to Miami in their build-up, with trying to play out with Dixon Arroyo or Ruiz, with the Union putting 3 or even up to 4 players on the midfielders of Miami, forcing Miami to play through the wings. With Miami not being able to respond, Philly were able to capitalize on an Inter Miami that was too pinned back in their own box, and in closing minutes of the first half, Leon Flack was able to score from outside the box. With all these chances, there was little Drake Callender could do. Ended the game with 0 saves in total. In the second half, there wasn't any change of formation, but Robert Taylor moved to left wing back and Cremachi moved to right wing back. And what was a good play from the Herons across the opponent's box resulted in a shot that was deflected from Robert Taylor to go in and get the consolation goal for the Herons. It was looking like they could possibly have a comeback. Trying to bring more spark into the attack, Stefanelli came on for Pizarro. And unfortunately for the Herons, it was not much of a spark that was had. Stefanelli didn't have much impact on the game, and shortly after, David Ruiz scored an own goal, and what made matters worse for the Herons. With a Philly victory looking all but secured, Philadelphia had more comfort being without possession. Javi Morales tried to shake things up and bring on some subs in Campana, Harvey Neville, and Boatwright. But none of them were able to impact the game and change the outcome for the Herons. 7 consecutive loss, and with big arrivals expected, now with Messi and the announcement of Busquets, still the deal of having to buy some players out, possibly Pizarro, buying down Gregory's contract with TAM. Inter Miami continue last place in the Eastern Conference, 11 points short of the 9th place position to get them in the playoffs. Situation's getting very do-or-die, and with a team that's been hit with a lot of injuries, playoffs are looking difficult. And will now be facing Austin FC in the weekend to see if the team can dig themselves out of this hole that they dug themselves in.